since the webinar is being recorded, feel free to ask any questions. I will make the link available to all of you in a follow-up email that will be sent this afternoon for you guys to rewatch the presentation, and you guys can share it with anybody else, a family member or a friend. Now, with that said, I would like to turn it over to Veronica. Veronica, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to present this great topic.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name again is Veronica. I am an employee at Affinity Federal Credit Union, Risk Operations. I've been with the organization for a little bit over 7 years, and I'm happy to be here with everyone and presenting this topic like Oscar said. It is really something that's up and coming, and we just want to make sure that our members are aware and know how to protect their accounts, their funds, and their information. So of course, digital payments, they're a great benefit to us. Digital payments have already made it easier to move and manage money. While there's more that we can do, the potential is real and understood. But just with any sort of benefit, any sort of easier or more convenient product or service, there's many times going to be something to look after or something to be aware of when using these products or services. So what is a digital payment? Well, a digital payment network is a service pre-built into many banking apps, such as those used by credit unions or banks. The service links to a user's bank account and allows the customers to send money to other people instantly using an email address or phone number. And why is that such a great thing? Well, it never made paying back a friend for lunch easier. It's just taken care of. You don't have to necessarily carry cash with you at all times, and it's available usually to them immediately. And we usually already have their phone number or their email address. In certain products or services, you may even have their account number and have that inputted to send them funds. So it makes it easier without having to worry about carrying enough for the tip or the bill or any sort of money that may have been borrowed to you by a friend or family member. And it's really a benefit. It's a great service that's available to all of us. Like I said, funds are usually available immediately. You don't have to worry about remembering your account information because many times it's already linked to it. You choose what account can be used for this type of product or service. It's being used by the majority of our members and others at other institutions. It's within your banking applications, and you're already there checking your accounts or performing your daily expenses or balancing your checkbook, whatever it may be. So it's easily accessible. And even if you don't use it within the banking applications, a lot of these products or services offer their own programs, their websites or applications for you to benefit from this particular service. And many times it's something that we can use from any sort of smartphone. It's kind of when you're walking out of the house, what do you walk out with? Your wallet, your keys, your phone. So it's constantly at arm's reach. And there are security features to give you that peace of mind that it's not something that, while beneficial, could have drawbacks or, be dangerous. With that said, we do have to be aware that, there are scammers out there that are taking advantage of the ease of these particular services. So what are the drawbacks? Well, sophisticated scammers are finding ways to convince you, the account owners, the holders of your online banking credentials, that they can try and reach out to you. They can try and convince you to send funds, possibly to give verification codes up to access your accounts, to send a transaction that isn't authorized. They're getting to the point where they truly are just masters at having conversations with individuals, making things sound normal, perfectly normal, rational, and make it sound as though there's an urgency to it. And so what do we all do when there's a possibility that we might be charged for something we didn't authorize, or if we fear that something has been compromised? We want to act and act fast. Keep in mind that the drawbacks to it is they may make it seem as though using the service to send them funds is perfectly normal. And that brings us to the second bullet, fast transactions. Yes, we can quickly follow maybe what they're instructing us. However, once it's sent, we cannot get it back. And that's what's imperative. If it's not possible to recover the funds, then it may be very difficult, if at all possible, to do so. And this isn't for just a particular group. It's not for a particular age. There is no discrimination in this new type of scam. It could be anyone from a younger age that's starting their lives with their accounts, their financial well-being, and lead all the way up to those that have had accounts and are knowledgeable of how accounts work and how the transactions and systems work. All of that. Everyone from beginning to end is easily able to become a victim if you don't know how to see the warning signs, how to stop from allowing this fraud to take place, how to know when to stop the conversation and reach out to the appropriate party, whether it be the financial institution that you're with, maybe the merchant that the scammers are perpetrating to be calling from or reaching out to you from, or to call local authorities. So what are examples? How could you possibly receive a notification or an alert that leads to digital payment fraud? Well, they come through as text messages. Many times they'll come through as emails. And so it's important to pay attention and really look at those messages. We're so used to those communications that sometimes we just automatically respond to them. But it's important to try and see, where are those communications coming from? Is it truly an email or a text from a company reporting fraudulent activity? Do I even have a relationship with this merchant? Maybe it's a recognized merchant, but do I have business? Am I their customer? Is this a number that normally reaches out to us, when they're contacting me, whether it be from my financial institution or this company that maybe I have a subscription with? Remember to stop, review, and if you don't know for certain, then feel free to reach out to the other communications that you can confirm as valid. Go to their official websites and verify the contact information. Reach out to those numbers, not to the ones provided to you in a text message or an email. Because many times, once the fraudsters see a response to that text message or to that email, or even sometimes phone calls, they'll start escalating their inquiries. Maybe it's something that needs to urgently have your attention, and so they need you to log into your online banking right away. Maybe they just ask you for your username and password. Maybe they ask you for access to your computer. And I can't say this enough, with our experience and in the department that I work in, it is imperative never to share that information with a third party. Why? Because it's like handing the keys to the home. And once they have access to get in through the front door, they'll have access to everything else. And remember that there's a lot of power in online banking. You can initiate transactions. You can move funds back and forth. You could gather information for future unauthorized activity. So it's imperative that when and if they ask for that information, it's not provided. In addition to that, if, let's say, maybe they're only asking you to confirm your username. The problem is that if you have granted access to your device, or if they try to log in from a computer that they have accessible to them, they could try and use a forgot password feature, which sends you a code. Now remember, the two-step verification or authentication that a lot of these programs have available or embedded into the services, they're only as strong as our customers or members that are abiding by how it works. Many times you might receive a text message where the first thing it says is never provide this to anyone. We will never ask you for this code. And it's important to remember that, because if we who are sending it to you are not asking for it, then a third party should have no access or need for it either. So if they choose things like the forgot password feature and you receive it and provide it to them, it essentially opens your accounts to transactions that you may not consent to. They could, once they're there, also remember change the contact information or the emails linked to your accounts, essentially locking you out from your own accounts. And once they have access, it's important to remember that, a lot can be done before you realize a scam. So if anything, remember to be aware, to ask questions, to doubt until you can confirm that who you're speaking to is authentically where they're calling from, that there's an affiliation there to a company or a financial institution. Now, federal regulation does require banks to reimburse customers for fraudulent transactions. But keep in mind that if during these interactions with scammers, if you perform the transactions or grant them access to online account access to initiate transactions, that's going to be difficult because you essentially hand them the keys to the house. And although the transactions may not be initiated by you, there's always that risk that they can perform them. And that has been permitted or allowed by members. So under no circumstances should online banking access be granted. Under no circumstances, until you're sure of who you're dealing with, should account information be provided. And under no circumstances should any sort of verification or authentication codes be provided to individuals you cannot confirm 100% are who they say they are or where they're calling from. Now, that being said, there is technology in place for your accounts to be secured. That's why there is that two-step verification, notifications sent to you, all to keep you up to date and aware of what's happening with your accounts. So again, that two-step verification, it's something that you don't want to provide to anyone because it's only as strong and good as how secure you keep that information. Just like you wouldn't carry your social security card around for the off chance that something happens and someone has access to it, because so much can be done if it is somehow accessed by someone that's not authorized to do so. Devices don't have your credentials saved. It might be a hardship, and I understand we have so many passwords nowadays that are necessary to operate or to use all the different programs available to us. But if someone were somehow able to access that device, they could get access to accounts and information. Same thing if you jot them down, although we don't encourage that. If you do, make sure those are locked somewhere secure where no one else can access it. If your credentials are saved on your phone automatically or jotted down on a notepad application on your phone, make sure that the devices are always locked, always available to you, and not accessible by someone that should not have access to this information. And how can you avoid becoming a victim? Again, one of the great features that you have, at least on our website, is that you can choose to remember a device. But remember that if you don't, anytime that there is a login to your accounts, either a text message or a phone call will be initiated. Why does that matter? Well, if someone somehow is able to access your credentials without your consent or knowledge, they still won't be able to get through unless they have access to that verification number or that text message. Don't provide information to anyone that calls, emails, or texts you out of the blue. Again, make sure you are aware of who you're speaking with, who you're working with, that you truly trust in that interaction. remember that scammers are becoming truly sophisticated, and they are going to be many times pushy. They're going to try and make it sound more urgent, sometimes demanding and threatening. Maybe they're going to charge you something that you didn't authorize. Maybe they're going to send out a warrant. Maybe, something's going to be closed, or something threatening that is time sensitive and needs you to give up information or initiate something right away. The truth is that many times those claims are false. And if they're authentic, they'll go through other means, other formal means to communicate that to you. And it won't be through an email urging you to call them, or a text message asking you to press one or to contact them as soon as possible. Sign up for text or email alerts on your online banking accounts. Whether it's a large deposit coming in or a large withdrawal coming in, it'll allow you to really monitor what's happening on your accounts, including and especially the ones that you don't consent to. And when financial institutions send out warnings of, be aware that there are additional dangers, how can you further protect your accounts, steps or warning signs of scams, keep an eye on it, even if you just skim it or visit our webinars as you are all doing today. The more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are in those situations. Remembering back to the beginning of the presentation, this does not discriminate. This type of fraud does not discriminate against any age, any profession, any ethnicity, nothing. Everyone is possibly a victim to this type of scam. So it's important to remember that. Be aware, eyes open, ears up, hearing as much as you can to really find those red flags when they happen. If you do become a victim, reach out to the financial institution that is affected or the merchant that they were purporting to be when they reach out to you. File the appropriate disputes or claims with the institution for the transactions that are not recognized. If your information is stolen during this process, report it to the Federal Trade Commission. You can do so by visiting their site, emailing them, or calling them. Sometimes you may need to report it to authorities. And of course, your cooperation during any and every investigation is imperative in order to come down to the conclusion or be able to better protect you. And most importantly, as we do with all webinars, we always suggest that you monitor your bank accounts, your credit accounts, if not daily, then certainly weekly, just as much as you possibly can. The earlier we are notified, the better. And thank you all for attending the webinar. Not sure if there's any questions. I'll be happy to help answer.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for such great presentation. Yes, at this point, I would like to open up the floor for any questions that may be out there. As I mentioned before, if you want to ask your question, you go ahead and use the Q&A option on your panel, and Veronica will be more than happy to address it. While you guys type those questions, also just a quick reminder, you guys will receive a link this afternoon with the recording of this webinar, so you guys can rewatch it again. Very good. So let me just take a look at the Q&A to see if there's anything out there. Okay, at this moment, I do not see any questions being asked, but let me just see. Let's give it another 10 seconds or so for people to write their questions. In the meantime, I would like to invite all of you to our next week's webinar, weekly webinar, which will be on annuities. So annuities is a great way for you to complement your investment portfolio with, and we want to learn as much as possible. So I highly encourage you guys registering for it. On the follow-up email this evening, I will also include the link for you to register for that webinar if you guys are interested. This will happen next Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. So I think that's ample time. I don't see any questions being asked right now, Veronica. So at this point, I would like to bring this webinar to a close. Thank you everybody for attending and staying on and paying attention. I hope this was informative to all of you. Veronica, do you have any parting words?
No, thank you so much to everyone for attending, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Veronica. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. See you guys next week. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.